And it's some super nasty flu. Like, okay. I'm 37 years old. I had just done a 100-mile bike race 2 months before. And so I've got some weird bug. I travel international. Maybe I pick something up, and it's just taken me a while to fight this off. So I'm thinking when she says that, how bad can this be? Like, what is the... She says, I think you've got cancer. And our head oncologist will be he's in the morning shift. He'll come in 6 a.m. or something. So get some sleep and then talk to him in the morning and we'll figure out where to go. And I'm thinking, what? Like, I have no idea what this means. Is it a tumor? Is it what kind of cancer is it? Is this like a minor cancer? Is it a big deal cancer? I don't know anything.
Welcome. You are listening to Season 3 of the Bonafide Leaders podcast, a podcast that exists to inspire legitimate and authentic leadership in the workplace and beyond. And I'm your host, Tim G. Williams. This season's theme is the intersection, sports, business, and leadership, which happen to be three of my greatest loves on earth. Now, if you don't play sports, you've never played sports, or you don't like sports, don't tune out. This podcast is for you too. I promise there will be nuggets for everyone. Welcome into another edition of the Bonafide Leaders podcast, and I'm your host, Tim G. Williams. With me today is someone I haven't spoken to in detail in some time, but I'm really excited to have him here today. His name is Dan. Let me tell you a little bit about Dan. Dan Rembold is the vice president of the custom organization at Texas Instruments. His 20-plus year career in semiconductors spans both sales and business leadership roles. Dan is concentrated on developing great relationships with large customers, building teams and methodologies for world-class product development execution, and establishing leadership positions in exciting new technologies. He views every day as a gift and loves taking on what he calls impossible challenges to get the most out of life. He's also an active cyclist. More on the impossible in cyclist, I promise, later in. You don't want to miss that. And he's married to computer engineer and elite marathoner Julie, and they live with their 5 children on a small farm just outside of Dallas. He prioritizes his Christian faith to guide his approach to life and relationships, aiming to positively impact those around him. Dan, it's awesome to have you here today, and I'm privileged to be able to have you to talk about what I think is a pretty incredible story. So welcome to the Bonafide Leaders podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
So Dan, I'm going to do my best not to spill too many beans, given that we were peers together for a good number of years at Texas Instruments. Let's start back to the beginning. So where were you born? Where did you grow up? Kind of how'd you spend those early years in life?
All right. So my dad's side of the family is from Maryland, Annapolis, Baltimore kind of area. So that's where I was born, in Annapolis, Maryland. And when I was turning 6, we moved to Virginia in the Shenandoah Valley. So I grew up in Winchester, Virginia.
Okay.
And I was always on the East Coast through college. So I had never actually been west of the Mississippi River until I flew out here for a job interview.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, kind of common for a lot of TIers because, there's a fair number of what we might call transplants. We hire, or the company hires, I can no longer say we, been some years, but I'm working on it, hires from all over the country. And so your story is not too different. Let's talk about sports a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Earliest memories of either watching or participating in sports?
Oh, I guess I would go to participating, and probably the earliest was soccer. So there were always soccer leagues and teams, usually summer league kind of things outside of the formal school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always remember playing soccer from a young age, and other stuff with just the neighborhood kids, right? Backyard football, foot races in the field near the house, that kind of thing.
And then as an athlete, let's say as a soccer athlete back in Virginia, were you more of kind of a natural or more of a fish out of water when you first got started with sports?
I would say something in between. As a child, I kind of had 3 main sports I played. I did soccer was the first one. I also would swim in the summer leagues. I was not a year-rounder like the really strong swimmers. And cross country in high school. So my father jogged a lot. I got on the cross country team as a freshman in high school. And those were probably the 3 biggest ones that I did. So My skill level was a little different in each sport. I was never the elite athlete in any of them, but some I was better than others. And so it just depended on which sport and which time in my childhood, maybe, for what my level was as an athlete.
Let's talk about that. So which sport would you say you love the most of those three that you played?
I think it depends on, for me, I'm a balance guy. Like, I struggle with extremes on this is the best, this is the one that I love the most.
Yeah.
It kind of depended on each one of them. So soccer, I loved for the camaraderie, getting to know the team. I typically would play a defensive position where I had a view of the field, and I remember strategizing, thinking, where are my friends? Who's where's the ball? Where do I need to be? And so the camaraderie with the team and kind of the strategic view of the field was a lot of fun for me.
Okay.
Swimming, I was probably the most naturally gifted at. Okay. I had a stronger upper body relative to lower body, but balance. So that fit me pretty well. And I enjoyed winning in swimming, but it was more of an individual sport. We did have relays and stuff, but it wasn't the same as being on the soccer field. So that was a lot of fun. And cross country, maybe some of both. Like, I like to push myself and stretch my limits as a runner, but there was also a team element of it. And so I'd have a hard time picking one. And I like the variety also. I don't want to be stuck in one thing for too long. And so I don't know if I have a good answer for my favorite.
That's a great answer. You get a pass. You're not in a test today, so that's good enough. Let me ask you about the other side of sports, meaning what didn't you like, if anything, about sports?
I don't like to lose. I'm relatively competitive, and the thing that every human, I feel like, adapts to their environment and circumstances. We are amazing at making the best out of hard situations. And so even if I was on a team that wasn't top of the league, I would adapt, and I would start to focus on what am I going to get out of this if we're not going to be the perennial leaders in our group. But that's something I struggle with. The discipline element is hard, pushing yourself and stretching your limits and setting the alarm to get up to be at practice or whatever. But that I never felt as like a negative or a painful thing. It was just kind of part of the sports environment for me. But I don't like to lose. And so those years where I was on a team that was mediocre, that was a struggle for me because I wanted us to be at the top.
So you're competitive, and that, I'm guessing, you fill in the blank, that carries over to work or does not carry over to work?
Absolutely carries over to work.
All right. So we won't get into too much detail, but in what way does that competitive nature affect the way you work with your team, the way that you lead?
I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, but when I was growing up, I had a vision for my life. I love technology. I wanted to study hard and get a great degree and then get a great job and career. And so that was a lot of my focus in my childhood. And then all of a sudden I show up in Dallas, Texas to work for TI, and I'm there. And I was thinking, okay, now what? What do I do with my life from here? So I actually rented a cabin in a state park for a weekend just by myself. And I drove out there, and I'm an old guy, right? So we didn't have Audible back then. I had the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People on audio disc. And I listened to it in the car on the way to the state park. And it's having you think about, what are your values in life? What are your principles in life? And I wrote that stuff down. And it's very consistent even today, 20-something years later.
Wow.
And so the reason I go on this tangent is because when I think about lessons that apply across sports and business and competitiveness, for example, for me, that's kind of an approach or a soft skill or a philosophy or a value. And it almost doesn't matter how you're applying it. Are you applying it to sports? Are you applying it to business? Are you applying it even in the home environment in some fashion? And so competitiveness is, we could get into that later too. I have, our family is strong-willed. I have strong-willed children. Strong-willed wife who puts up with my strong will as well. So to answer your original question, actually most of the things that I learn in sports, the lessons I've had, the insights that I've developed, the things I've learned from other people in sports directly apply to business. And I almost don't delineate between the two. And I give talks regularly at work where I'm using analogies from stuff in the sports world because I feel like it directly applies. And quite often that's even a more natural or a stickier lesson for somebody to learn than a bullet point on a slide that's something specific about a business task.
Yeah, yeah. What's really cool about, having these conversations is that there's so many people I've talked to and interviewed over the last year or so. And even though I know people, I think, really well, there's always something new
That's right.
that I get. And so love having these kind of conversations. Let's talk about something you mentioned a second ago, education.
Mm-hmm.
So coming out of high school, you're thinking you love this thing called technology. Tell us about where you studied, why you chose that particular major.
I went to Virginia Tech, Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, and I studied computer engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And in high school, I just knew that I loved technology. I enjoyed programming. I enjoyed ripping the computers apart. We had it was an Apple or Macintosh years ago, and you couldn't muck with that much. And so I broke it because I was trying to mess with it, and it's not open source, right? So then I remember, I think I was a freshman in high school. My parents saved for the year to buy a new Windows-based computer. And that afternoon, I had it in pieces on the bedroom floor, and my mom walked in, and she about had a heart attack. Like, what are you doing? But she was awesome. She gave me a few minutes to explain what I was doing, and there was something broken, and I was convinced I could fix it, and I actually did. But when she walked in and the $3,000 computer was in pieces, and I asked for super glue, she had a momentary panic.
Yeah.
So all through high school, I kind of envisioned myself going into computer science or computer engineering. And when I started to look at that as a junior, senior in high school, I settled on I would love to do computer engineering. My assessment was that the best university in the area, at least, and largely in the world, was Virginia Tech for that. I went down and saw the school, learned more about the engineering program there, and that's how I selected to go to school there.
Did you start computer science, or did you switch majors, or you started
straight into engineering? So I started in the engineering program, and I enjoyed my thought process was I liked the hardware and the software. I liked to take the computer apart and understand the circuit boards and how things were put together, and I liked to program it. And so I felt like my way to be able to demystify this magical piece of technology and to understand it from end to end was to go into a computer engineering degree and get some of both.
So you go to Virginia Tech, a Hokie.
Yes.
Competitor Dan was a Hokie and is a Hokie. So he goes, gets this degree, and then you land in this place called Dallas, Texas. I'm assuming that was your first role at TI? Was in Dallas?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And there's a story there too. I think maybe you and Julie may have met close to this time period. You got to tell that story, because I think it was at a burger joint or a restaurant or something, right?
You have a good memory.
Okay.
Yeah, so I graduated computer engineering. I graduated December 2001.
Yeah.
And all of my intern co-op experience was in the telecom world, which was imploding when I graduated. And so I interviewed with everybody, and a lot of the companies were industrial, aerospace and defense. And I had a classmate that said, hey, you ought to go check out TI. They've got this technical sales rotation program, so you get to learn some business stuff and like how the business works in addition to using your engineering degree. And I just thought that was cool. I remember in my engineering fundamentals class, this thing that engineers could do called running a business and seeing a whole business. So I accepted that job. I moved to Dallas, Texas. And yes, I did meet my wife here. She is also a computer engineer out of Kansas State. She's a wildcat. And she also had come to Dallas to work at TI initially. And when we met, I was supposed to show her how to get to work. And so I get her phone number. All of us that are already at TI are supposed to reach out to the incoming class and say, hey, I'm here as a resource. If you have any questions to help you get started, let me know.
And maybe I could be more of a resource. Maybe that.
That's right. So I get assigned Julie. She's coming, I don't know, 3 months, 4 months after I am. So I leave a voicemail for her and say, hey, I'm Dan. Here's my number. If I can help show you around or whatever, let me know. So she calls me back and says, yeah, that'd be great. How do I get to the entrance? Where do I go? So I said, well, there's a Whataburger that's right down the street from TI. So why don't you meet me at the Whataburger and I'll drive you around the corner and show you where to go on Monday morning. So she shows up, and my wife, beautiful, athletic, this Kansas blonde in a in a T-top Camaro Z28 with a Ninja motorcycle on the trailer hitch on her Camaro. And I was thinking, where am I? What have I gotten myself into? So the rest is history now.
Wow.
Yeah. So we did meet at the burger joint in Dallas.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Not everybody can say that.
That's true. And ironically, neither of us have ever eaten at a Whataburger.
Right.
And so my not so secret plan is for some big anniversary, I have to take her out for a fancy dinner at the Whataburger to celebrate where we met.
And there might be one, Corpus Christi. Seems like our family was down there for a dance convention or something a couple of years ago.
Uh-huh.
And I want to say their claim to fame, that Whataburger is like the biggest Whataburger.
That'd be a nice place for an anniversary trip. You're giving me good ideas.
Food for thought.
That's right.
All right, I want to fast forward a little bit. Quite a bit, actually.
Uh-huh.
And a listener, you may be wondering, hey, what about this sports connection? Stay with us. It's coming back. Let's fast forward to, we'll call it late November, right after Thanksgiving, early December of 2016. I'm going to share kind of what was happening from my perspective, and then something I've never really asked you around this particular time, what was happening from your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with me. So here we go. This business that I'm running finance and operations for is called Silicon Valley Analog, and it's based out in the Bay Area, a place we're very familiar with. And at the time, this business is going to consolidate, and it's going to be a part of the rest of the analog businesses, which means my job is being eliminated, and the jobs of many people is being eliminated. Keep posted if you're listening. There's going to be a future podcast to really unpack all that. But in my mind, I've been told, Tim, it's time for you to start meeting with the new business unit managers in your new business, right? So this is a difficult mental challenge for me. I'm thinking about the old, but I'm also thinking about, okay, the new. And one of the people on the list is a guy named Dan, who I don't believe I had met up to that point. Maybe I'd seen you in some meetings or calls or something, but I'm like, okay, let me reach out to this guy named Dan. I reach out to all the BU managers. They write me back. We set up time to talk. I'm like, I reached out to Dan, haven't heard from him. Let me check again. Reach out to Dan. It's crickets on the other end. Now, mind you, everybody around me is like, oh, Dan's a great guy. You'll love working with him. He's super energetic. All these positive. I'm like, hey, brother, not call me back. So I don't know what y'all think about the guy, but right now, he's not doing too well on my list. That was what was happening in my world, because I knew very soon in January it's going to be a big announcement. And we got to hit the ground running, because that's the way Texas Instruments works. Mm-hmm. So things, though, were different on your end. What was happening for you?
I just didn't like you. That's why I need to watch out for this Tim guy. I don't know. No, it was also a pretty pivotal life moment for me in that time frame. You think about, I did an exercise once, an icebreaker, where you were supposed to draw a river on a piece of paper on the whiteboard, and each bend in the river signified a pivot point in your life. This was definitely a pivot point. So I was managing a business unit. I had been, 2 years or something as a business unit manager.
Yep.
And from my perspective, in my career at TI, this was the biggest reorganization in the history of since I've been there. And I'm about to take a very different type of role, similar to you. I'm going to be a business unit leader, but over a different mix of businesses, more stuff to do, more people, more complexity, more customers.
Yep.
And in December, I start to not feel my normal self. I'm generally active, swimming, soccer, cross country, and I'm just feeling kind of run down. And I'm thinking, well, it's been a busy year. We're rolling into this reorg. I've been working on plans for this. And all of a sudden I wake up January 2nd with a fever. And so what do you do when you have a fever? You take some Advil and go back to sleep, right? So that's what I did. After 2 or 3 days, I still have this fever. And the reorg announcement is coming.
Yeah,
and I'm supposed to be in front of hundreds of people announcing what's happening and keeping my team calm and getting all this stuff arranged. And my now elite marathoner wife, Julie, is about to have her first ever marathon that she's been training for in Houston in January. So I'm going to the doctors trying to figure out what's wrong with me. Is that I'm getting tested for the strep, for flu. COVID didn't exist yet, so that was her thing. And one of the doctors gives me a steroid shot, an antibiotic shot, and the fever goes down. I go back to work, and then 2 days later, on Friday the 13th, January 2017, the fever comes back. and I'm kind of winded and short of breath. And I'm thinking, this is not right. This has been now a week and a half.
Yeah.
I've never been sick this long in my life. And my wife is about to go run this marathon on Sunday. So I got to go to the hospital and figure out what's wrong with me. So I'm an engineer. I'm writing down all my symptoms, what doctors I've seen, what they told me the result was. And I show up in Friday night in Dallas, Texas, in the emergency room. And you can imagine what kind of clientele are often in the ER on a Friday night. And I'm the engineer with here are all my symptoms. I'm sick. You got to find out what's wrong with me. So they run a battery of tests. And that night, 2:00 in the morning, the doctor on call comes in and she says, this is the part of my job I don't like. And
wow.
I'm thinking, it can't be that bad.
Let me ask you, how are you feeling before she says those words? What's your body feeling like at this?
I'm figuring it's some super nasty flu.
Okay.
I'm 37 years old. I had just done a 100-mile bike race 2 months before. And so I've got some weird bug. I travel international. Maybe I pick something up and it's just taking me a while to fight this off. So I'm thinking when she says that, how bad can this be? She says, I think you've got cancer. And our head oncologist will he's in the morning shift. He'll come in 6 a.m. or something. So get some sleep and then talk to him in the morning and we'll figure out where to go. And I'm thinking, what? I have no idea what this means. Is it a tumor? What kind of cancer is it? Is this like a minor cancer? Is it a big deal cancer? I don't know anything. So it was a rather pivotal time. And I apologize for not calling you back. I was a little bit distracted at the moment.
On this side of life, and even obviously much sooner than this moment, I became aware that my man Dan is not doing so well. And clearly, much grace, was given.
Yes.
But you and I didn't really know just how serious this moment was for you. Mm-hmm. So you get the call. She says, hey, I think you may have cancer. Mm-hmm. Oncologist doctor will be here tomorrow. What's next for you? What happens?
So the report the next morning is we took a blood sample. Mm-hmm. And an average middle-aged male, your white blood cell count should be between 5 to 10,000. And we measured yours at 118,000.
Wow.
Which is a high degree of likelihood that it's a blood-based cancer called leukemia. Now, there's some other things it could be, but there's a specialty clinic in Medical City, Dallas. We want to send you in the ambulance down there this morning. They're going to take bone marrow and do more extensive tests and then confirm if this is what it is. So we go through that process. So I'm do my morning commute every day. I'm down 75 to TI. This morning, I'm in the back of the ambulance watching the cars run past me, on the way down to Medical City. So Julie's supposed to run the marathon the next day.
Right.
And I'm in the hospital and I'm telling her, I'm just going to sit here and I'm under the best care I can have. All the nurses and doctors are fussing over me. I would rather at least have something to do and watch you on my phone or my iPad running in the Houston Marathon. So you got to go down there and run the marathon. Who knows when you'll get to do this again. Mm-hmm. And so I've forced her to go. So she ran the marathon. We got the test results back and I learned, I don't know if it was Sunday night or Monday, it was confirmed that it was blood leukemia, AML, acute myeloid leukemia. Mm-hmm. And no cancer is good, but you really don't, if you're going to get cancer, you don't want AML. Mm. At that time, it was a 1 in 4 chance of survival. The statistics were about 27% chance. And I ended up with a flavor of AML called FLT3 that's even more rare and even more deadly. So It was life throws you curveball sometimes, right?
Let's pause right there for a second. Julie goes down, she runs the marathon. Mm-hmm. There's so many lessons in all this, even leadership lessons. I think being in the place that you were, I probably would have encouraged my wife to do the same thing. Because, hey, I just want to be able to think about something other than my condition, if nothing else, and give her the opportunity to go train for something that she's been training for a very long time.
Yeah.
You get the results back pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. What flashes came across your mind? What emotions did you have in those immediate moments after getting the diagnosis?
Yeah, you're going to be at least partially devastated. I had a plan. I was building my team at TI. We got 5 young kids. We were halfway through the construction of our dream house. We had this giant loan, and I don't know if I'm going to be alive like a month from now. So I'm thinking, on the one hand, this is a bad card to draw. But I also went to, my wife and I are both Christians. That's our worldview. And we felt very blessed with our circumstances up to that point in life. Everybody's got junk that comes their way, right? It's just a matter of time. And we had felt that exactly.
Keep on living.
We have 5 amazing kids. Yeah. And so now I'm starting to coach my brain. Like, you've got to be focused on what you have going for you, not all the stuff that's bad. Somebody else has got it worse. You have incredible colleagues at TI. You have a family that can help with things. You have health insurance. There's a doctor right here in Dallas that can help to get you through this. And I start looking around the ward I'm in, and there's a 80-year-old in the room next to me that can't survive a treatment. He doesn't even have a shot, right, to be able to tackle this. There's a newborn baby in the other room, one of 2 twins, that was born with a ALL, another version of a blood cancer. At least I'm a grown man. I've got some life experience. It's not my wife or one of my kids. So I start to think, like, all right, I like the, in quotes, impossible challenges. Whether it's a sports challenge or a challenge at work, I kind of gravitate towards, if you're going to tackle something, it might as well be something worth tackling.
And this is your thinking even before this major life event occurs.
It is. And so when this thing happens, I'm thinking, at least, okay, this is my curveball. This is my time. If I die tomorrow, I've tried to live my life the best I could up until this point. I've got a lot of plans to go, but I'm making peace with whatever thing is going to happen that's outside of my control. And I'm starting to apply that mindset to this situation. Okay, if you're going to get sick, might as well be cancer. If you're going to get cancer, might as well be AML. Like, all right, bring it on. Like, this is the next big challenge, right? And so, of course, there were really hard moments through that also, and trying to figure out how we were going to navigate life. Do we stop construction on the house? What's my life insurance policy like? Which friend can I call to help do all the legal documentation for just in case, not knowing how things are going to play out. But all this was going through my head, and very fast.
Yeah.
And every hour brings a different new information in a situation like that. And I like to plan ahead. I'm a planner. I want to know, I've got trips on my calendar a year and a half from now. And so when you're in this situation, and each time the doctor walks into the room, there's new information that completely changes what you thought you knew 5 minutes ago, you have to also learn to be very adaptable. So all those things were kind of going on in that time.
Yeah. Bonafide Leaders works with emerging leaders, established leaders, and executives. We exist to help you, your teams, and your business thrive, specializing in executive coaching, leadership development, organizational consulting, and keynote speaking services. Providing the absolute highest level of quality and service, we partner with our clients to help them grow, elevate their leadership effectiveness, navigate organizational change, culture, and leadership transitions, to advance employee engagement and retention, and raise bottom-line operations. If these are the kinds of problems you're seeking to solve and you're humble, hungry, and coachable, we might be a good fit. If that's you, reach out to me at bonafideleaders.com/contact. It's an incredible moment to happen in your life, particularly the age, the relative health, you're in. Like you said, for the most part, life is going pretty well. There's a lot of blessings, right, when you look around. And yet this event happens. And you said something that I just think is so powerful for those who might be struggling with something serious in your life, which is you begin to coach yourself. You begin to train your mind how to think. That's one of the things that I love doing as an executive coach, is working with clients around, I'll call it resilience training. And you told yourself all the wonderful things that are going well for you, as opposed to flipping it and thinking about only the worst case scenario. And I have to believe, Dan, even back in TI when we were all working and hoping good things for you and praying for you, I have to believe that your attitude helped impact your recovery in some way. What do you say about that?
I'm sure it does. I am a believer that you can you can't control the outcome of every situation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's times where you just have to be at peace with whatever direction things are going to take. It's going to go that way. But I do think that you can give yourself the best possible shot by picturing in your mind the outcome that you want. And I watched a great documentary a few years ago on a flight to Europe, and it was interviewing a bunch of best in their world sports athletes. So Jerry Rice and Wayne Gretzky, and I forget, it might have been Jerry Rice. I think he was the one talking about the greats. They always picture in their mind what they want to happen, and they're playing over and over again. The game's on the line. I have to catch a touchdown pass from Joe Montana to win the game. And how many times did it play out exactly like I pictured it in my head the night before? And there's got to be an element of, if you're preparing for that, if you're picturing that, you can help to steer the outcome. It's not guaranteed. Of course, things are going to be outside of your control, but I am a believer that you can help to guide that. And I felt that way about my situation as well. Mm-hmm. I was trying to be actively involved in what was going on. I was an engineer, not a doctor, but I'm asking questions and taking notes, and you can't sleep. I'm up at 2 a.m. I'm typing stuff on my iPad. And when the doctor comes for rounds at 6 a.m. and I wake up groggy, I'm like, okay, here's what I need to know, right? This is what I'm asking. And he told me later, I can tell the patients that are really engaged and they have a better shot to make it through a situation like that.
Kudos to you for that. Now let's fast forward to, I don't know exactly the timing, so you'll have to just help me with the timing. I do know at some point you got a donor, and this donor didn't just live around the corner, but was halfway around the world.
Yes. Talk
a little bit about the timing of when you kind of get to the end of this and the timing of the donor. I don't remember that exactly.
With FLT3 AML, it's a nasty one. And even with extreme chemotherapy, it will most likely come back until it kills you. And the one therapy that they have some chance of curing you for good is a bone marrow transplant. So there's a fascinating book about this that Fred Applebaum wrote, if you want more details. But we have developed one possible cure of effectively nuking your immune system. So they literally inject you with mustard gas. It was discovered after World War I. It's the same chemical family as mustard gas. This toxin destroys your bone marrow and your immune system. And if you're fortunate enough to find a DNA matched donor, they can take stem cells or bone marrow from that person and give it to you and reboot an entirely new immune system. And of course, your immune system is created to fight foreign things. And so if you don't find an exact DNA matched donor, the new immune system is going to fight you until it kills you. And even if they find a DNA match fit, it's still a hard process. So that's what we went through. January, I was sick. They gave me a nasty dose of chemo to get the leukemia under control, to kill the white blood cells that were corrupt and replicating like crazy, stabilize me, triage, right? Then I had a few months of chemo. I would go home and recover for a month and go back in for a week worth of chemo while we were hunting for a donor. My brother and my sister were not a match for me. And they went to the International Stem Cell Registry and they found a donor in the world that was a 10 for 10 HLA DNA match for me. And she was willing to donate stem cells to try this procedure. So they won't tell you who the donor is, right? It's a legal forced anonymity. So I found out that she's from Germany. She's a she has 2 kids, and that's basically all I knew.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't even know she was German. I knew that she had potentially been exposed to mad cow disease, and I had to sign a waiver form for that. So likely Europe. And there are many donors in the database from Germany. And so I had a suspicion. I took a DNA saliva test the week before the bone marrow transplant, which was in July 2017. And that said I was 80% wise, Welsh, Irish, Scottish, English, and 10 or 12% German, and a little bit of everything else. And then I thought I was going to cheat the system and take the DNA test again after the transplant, and maybe I get a hit for like a twin sibling or something. Well, she wasn't in the database, but it was all German. Now I'm 85% German. Like and none of my cousins, aunts, and uncles match me anymore in the DNA database. Now I'm matching all these people in Germany. So I knew that my donor was likely German, and that transplant happened in July.
That was July of
July of 2017. So that whole process was about 6 or 7 months.
Okay. And then remind me the timing of when you began, I think, maybe doing a little bit of work at home, maybe, before you came into the office.
Yes.
When you came into the office, when was that?
End of the year. So the feedback I'd gotten from the doctors was, you're going to be out of work for at least a year and a half or 2 years. But I'm a little bit competitive. So I'm setting goals for myself, right? Like, I'm going to show those doctors. The last bike race that I did was the inaugural Emmett Smith Grand Fondo, which was a big charity fundraiser that Emmett and his wife at the time, Pat, were fundraising. And they did this 100-mile bike race. That was in the fall before I got sick. And so I made it a goal, like, what if I could get back to do the Emmett Smith ride again 1 year later? Now, I know I'm not going to do the 100-miler, but he number 22, right? He has a 2.2-mile family ride around the parking lot. And so I kind of made that my goal. Could I get back on the bike in that time frame? So I pushed my recovery. I was able to start officially back at work 10 months after the diagnosis in January. So in November, I came back to work mostly from home. And then I kind of eased back into the office as my new immune system matured.
Exactly. And I remember that. And this is, pre-coronavirus.
Yes.
So now there's a lot more sensitivity and awareness of people who might be dealing with all sorts of underlying conditions, right? That might not be known to the public, might not even be known to the person, but they're potentially symptomatic of something that could get you.
Right.
And I remember for the first time ever in my life, becoming acutely aware that, if I've got something going on, like a sickness, whatever, I probably need to keep my distance from Dan because I don't want to make this guy any worse, right, than all the stuff he's already gone through.
Yeah.
The thing that I remember is it being such an encouragement to the team when you came back. I think we may have had your boss at the time go in and, try to manage the business, in your stead a little bit. And everybody's kind of doing a little bit more. The guy who reported to me, right, he's doing a little bit more on the finance and operations side. Everybody, right, the PLMs, et cetera. It was just such a relief to see you alive, one, and then two, to see your face. And as you just started to get stronger and stronger, first of all, it was a huge motivation for the entire team just to see you come back, period. But then as you started to get stronger, slowly by slowly, hair started to come back, right? It was just little things like that I think really pushed the team. And that was just an incredible moment for us. What was it like for you coming back to work and seeing the faces and all that kind of a thing?
Incredible. Very similar to how you describe. And I set a lot of goals for myself when I was stuck in the hospital. I spent 84 days in the hospital that year. And you're in this little room. Germs are a major threat. The kids aren't allowed to come in. No fresh flowers. Any visitors have to be masked up, hands washed, no germs, right? The common cold will kill me instantly while I have no immune system. And so I'm picturing in my head, I'm just like Jerry Rice, not quite, but I'm thinking one day I'm going to be on the stage in the TI auditorium telling elements of this story to a team, like using some of these things I'm learning about, I don't know what yet, and I'm thinking about that literally while I'm on the chemo tap in the hospital to give myself some encouragement. And so seeing some of those things play out was just super awesome, right? To be able to get time with the team again. I'll never forget one of the first meetings I was in. There's problems, right, at work.
Yes, there
and
are.
I can literally, where I park every day to go into TI, I can see the hospital room that I was in.
Medical cities right there.
Right across the street.
Yeah.
So I'm parking and I'm going into TI. I'm looking at the hospital that I was in. I'm in this meeting and there's problems and challenges, right? This customer's got an issue. We screwed this up. We've got this problem. And one of my peers shoots me this text under the table, like during this big meeting. Hey, Dan, welcome back. Ha, ha, ha. Lucky you. We've got all these problems in your business. And I'm smiling. I'm thinking, these are the best problems to have. Like 6 months ago, I had a whole different set of problems, right? And so it was a great perspective to me to remind me that we choose to work on these things. We are blessed to have the opportunity to change the world through creating amazing technology. And yeah, there's hard days at the office and issues come up and things don't go the way you want. but what an opportunity to be able to work in that environment. And so I'm always thinking about elements of back to the values and the principles that apply if it's in sports or if it's in the office or whatever. That all mixes together for me. And whether it was this experience for me or experiences on the bike or in other sports activities, right? There's a lot of synergy there. So it was amazing to come back in the office and be able to see everybody. The encouragement was overwhelming. And throughout the whole time I was out of the office, the amount of energy, people visiting, sending me notes and all of this, it felt like a big family over there right across the street while I was working through that.
All right. I want to transition back over to sports a little bit. Difficult to do, man. That's a powerful story. It's incredible that you've moved through it. And I'm just so happy for you, your family, and all of it. All right, let's talk about cycling. You mentioned being on the bike quite a bit already, and in a second, I want to get to a really, really big thing that you did, but you mentioned cross country and swimming and soccer earlier, and then there was this hiatus, right? And I don't know at what point you picked up the bike, but can you talk about that? How'd you get into cycling?
So I moved around a lot earlier in my career, and I was in an expat assignment in Sweden, and when I moved back to the U.S. in 2009, my boss at the time said, hey, you ought to get on a road racing bike. Like, you might enjoy that. And I thought, these people are crazy. I see them in their spandex going hours in the 100 degrees in Texas. And, but I thought, before I say no, I'll give it a shot. So my colleague, friend, had a second bike. And he said, go get some shorts and shoes and you can use my bike. So I got on that bike, and it was like driving a Ferrari compared to a normal car. It's completely different from the normal bike you had as a kid. And I was kind of hooked because running is a slog for me. It's slow. You can only make it a couple of miles. And so you see the same trees and mailboxes from your house. On a bike, I'm moving. And so I can have the fresh air in my face. I get out, I can talk to people. I can go hard if I want. I can take it easy if I want. And it was freedom and to get outside and just experience nature. And so I started doing hobby cycling 2009 to 2016. Okay. But I was a proverbial weekend warrior. I would ride on the weekends in the summer, and that was basically it. And I used that a little bit between rounds of chemo, actually trying to recover. So the weekend before the transplant, you go in for a surgery, they put a tube into your heart so that they can do the mustard gas chemo. And so I know what's coming. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to thumb my nose at cancer. I'm going to ride my bike from my house past the hospital, around White Rock Lake, and back up to my house. It was like a 50-mile loop or something the weekend before the bone marrow transplant. And in between rounds of chemo, I would try to get back on the bike to rebuild a little bit of fitness, help my body process the chemo and everything. And so I started on the bike in 2009, but always kind of a hobbyist up through the cancer ordeal.
And then likely you probably set a goal because you're competitive Dan, and that's what competitive Dan does, is he sets goals for himself. So in 2021, you accomplished something that no one, certainly at that point, and maybe ever, has done. Tell us about Race Across America 2021.
So after I was healthy enough to be outside on a bike again, post bone marrow transplant, there was a group, this team in training, doing fundraiser for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society that had set up like a water stand a mile from my house on the weekend. So I'm out there riding, and I come on this group, and I was just cheering them on. I'm alive because of what you all did. You raised money for LLS, and I'm a bone marrow transplant guy. And so I traded contact info with the organizers, right? And just said, hey, we got to keep in touch. And I'm thanking all the cyclists, for what they're doing. And so some months later, they reached out to me and they said, hey, Dan, we know you're a cancer survivor and a cyclist. And we've got this guy in Florida that wants to do a relay bike race with a team made up of cancer survivors to raise money for LLS and do something great with life post-cancer. I thought, okay, that sounds great. What relay are we talking about? I've done the Hotter Than Hell 100 in Texas. I can do anything. And then I get in touch with this guy, Mark, and he says, well, I'm thinking we want to do the Race Across America. I just started laughing just like that. I was like, wait a minute. I'm not a Tour de France pro cyclist. I'm a weekend warrior kind of a person. So long story short, he's putting a team of 8 cyclists together cancer survivors to do the race across America from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean. And this is not the Tour de France. Okay, that's a different kind of athlete, right?
Yeah.
They're exceptional. But that race is 2,000 to 3,000 miles, 2,400 miles. But they race it in stages. So they race hard for 4 or 6 hours. Then they go get a massage and they get to eat whatever they want. And the sponsors come, interview them, and they get a full night's sleep. And then they do it again the next day, right? In the race across America, the clock never stops until you get to the finish line. So you're racing all night long, 24 hours a day, through whatever weather, over the mountains. It's crazy. And before I told Mark, no way, you're nuts, I started to think, wouldn't it be cool if I could be even stronger after going through this leukemia ordeal than I was before? And what if I could actually get my physical fitness to a point that was exceeding where I was in my 30s pre-cancer? So I'm mulling on this idea. I'm talking to Julie because it's a big family thing too, right? And finally I decide, okay, I'm going to go for it. So I call Mark back and I tell him, I've got a good cancer survivor story. So far, I'm still alive, right? And most people don't make it through AML. And I'll help you raise some money. That's a fun cause, right? This will be an awesome thing to go try to do. I am not a cyclist of the caliber of the rest of this team you're putting together. But if it's okay if I'm the weak link, and I'll help with these other things, I'm in.
So what's the furthest that you had raced or been on a bike?
100 miles.
100 miles, hotter than hell thing. 100.
Hotter than hell thing.
Okay.
And that about killed me. I was at my deathbed, I thought, right at the end of 100 miles. This is 3,000 miles coast to coast nonstop with sleep deprivation and 100 degrees in the desert and sandstorms and thunderstorm. I mean, it's a whole nother deal.
All right. So you say yes to Mark.
Yes.
And you prepare for this? How do you prepare for something like that?
I said, I need help. So I hired a professional coach.
Okay.
My wife is now really starting to hit her stride in the marathon world. And she knows people because she's an elite marathoner. So she starts to talk to some of the more famous, well-known elite marathon coaches. Hey, do you know somebody that's a cycling coach? This is my husband's story. He's looking for help, right? So through that kind of chain, I connect up with the coach, signed up with him in the summer of 2020. That spring was when I finally got off of meds. So the transplant was 2017. I was on various drugs for 3 years trying to get my body to calm down after the transplant. And so I couldn't race because I was still on steroids to keep my immune system from killing me. Right? So I had to get clear of that first. I hired the coach in summer 2020 and I start training. And so getting into a rhythm, thinking about, and not just the physical part, like my coach has given me, you got to ride this much every day, these different routines. I'm now cancer survivor over 40. Your body starts to struggle, right? There's a shelf life to athletes. And so the sports massages, the chiropractic, the physical therapy, the needling, the sleep, the nutrition, all those things took at least as much time as the time training on the bike.
Right.
But that was a lot of my year from mid 2020 to the race kicking off in 2021 was learning all that stuff, becoming a student of what it would take to do ultra cycling and reading books, like training my mind as much as my body, right? And working through that over the course of a year.
And all this time, you got a full-time job, 5 kids, and a wife who's pretty good.
Yes.
As a marathoner.
Yes.
Oh, and you run the farm too.
Yeah. Life is awesome, isn't it? I'm alive. I'm just like, I'm going to do whatever I can do. Soak it up, right? I shouldn't be here right now anyway. So, yeah.
Pretty awesome. So you're the first leukemia survivor, right, to do that race?
The first, at least, bone marrow transplant leukemia survivor.
Yep.
One of my teammates is also a leukemia survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Not the same type of leukemia. My doctor would argue that's the easy kind. None of them are easy kinds. But the first bone marrow transplant survivor to even attempt. I tried to find this out before the race because I was getting interviewed by some local news channels and stuff. And there's a group that raises money every year for leukemia research that does race across America. And I contacted them and they laughed at me. They were like, what? Like, no, we're the friends and family of the leukemia people. Like, you can't do this race as a leukemia survivor. And so then I just smile, right? I'm like, okay, this is the impossible, supposedly, challenge, right? So all of this is motivation for me. So I was the first bone marrow transplant leukemia survivor to show up at the start line of this race across America.
It's incredible, Dan. I'm going to ask you a question, although I feel like in some ways we've maybe already answered it. How, in what way, I guess, have you brought what you've gotten from cross country and swimming and soccer and cycling to the way you approach work and life? Maybe you've already answered that, but is there anything else to add for that?
Yeah, tremendously. So it not just the competitiveness. In ultra cycling is a different kind of sport. There's a big physical element. There's a tremendous amount of mental fortitude, perseverance, determination. There's things always go wrong. The exceptional pro athletes. There's a maybe the best in our sport. There's one human on the planet Earth that has finished the race across America solo in less than 8 days, and he's done it multiple times. And he's dropped out before because stuff goes wrong on this race. So the best of the best in the world.
Did you say 8 days?
8 days.
From the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean?
As a soloist. That's right. Yeah, Christoph Strasser, he's a cyborg guy.
If you can't see the YouTube right now, that's Tim's mouth dropping through the floor.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, and even he's dropped out before from the race across America. So the adaptability, the perseverance, mentally planning that things are going to go wrong, thinking about what's my plan A, plan B, plan C, coaching your mind that the biggest opportunities come out of the most difficult situations. And in my ultra cycling career after race across America, so after that, I'm like, okay, now I whipped myself into shape. I'm going to keep pushing myself and see what I can do. And I started to do some more ultra distance races. You develop grit. You learn something about yourself. You have to shift your mindset that this is going to be hard. And I'm seeking that out.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely translates to the work environment. And when I'm working through a tough situation with my team, we joke almost like we're the team that takes pride in doing the impossible that others won't even attempt. Bring it on. Like, that's our game. That's what value we bring. And so this maybe soft skill lessons or some of the values and the philosophy apply every single day at the office. And I trade stories with myself. We did this really hard thing at work. I'm going through something tough on the bike, and I'm thinking about that. I'm dealing with this really tough thing at work, and I'm thinking about this crazy situation that I survived in the bike when I almost got struck by lightning in the Utah desert, and I somehow made it through. We're going to get through this thing at work, right? So the lessons absolutely apply back and forth.
It's incredible. There's such an intertwining between sports, life, and business, leadership. And that is the hallmark, the essence of why we're doing this season. And you are the epitome of that in a positive way. Sometimes the epitome is like a negative word. I don't know why. I don't think it is if you look actually up in dictionary.com. But you represent, right, what's required to excel in all of those facets of life. Because I think in large part you challenge yourself to things, like you say, that are impossible. And I can speak from personal experience that certainly the technology challenges that you and your team encounter are some of the world's most challenging engineering problems out there, and you solve them and have had a history of solving them. What was cool about reading your bio is that there's something about, product development, world-class product development execution. Yeah, let me tell you something. This is one of those teams out there who time after time after time again get it right, and they often get it right on the first piece of silicon, PG as we like to call it, pattern generation in the world of semiconductors. So just incredible. All right, I want to wrap up with maybe just a few final thoughts. First one is thinking about people who are going through a serious diagnosis or something serious in their life and they're not sure how they're going to get through it. I want you to talk to that person, maybe encourage them. They're staring it down. What input would you have for that person who wants to get through this thing, have a great life, contribute something meaningful at work, but man, it's really dark right now? What do you say to that person?
Yeah, I mean, my experience taught me, know that some of the biggest opportunities in your life can come out of those hardest, darkest moments. And I never would have gotten into this ultra distance thing if I hadn't gone through the leukemia ordeal. The people I've met, the things that I have been able to do actually came because of this hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. Now, when you're in those moments, be patient with yourself. I'm a competitive person. I'm a go-getter. I'm used to helping others solve problems. I don't like to be waited on. I don't like to be patient. Give yourself some grace. Have patience. Let others help you. And that was really tough for me to be able to flip that switch. The other thing I would say is set goals. And it's easy to say maybe and hard to do. The more you can coach yourself to be at peace that there are things outside of your control, no matter who you are. You can't control the outcome, but set some goals for yourself on if this outcome is what I think, here's what I could go do. When I was in January diagnosed, I'm sitting in the hospital in the middle of the night, can't sleep, and I like cycling. So the first pro cycling race of the year is the Tour Down Under in Australia. In January. It's summertime there, right? So I'm watching this in the middle of the night, streaming on my iPad in the hospital, and I'm thinking, if I live through this, I've never been to Australia. I want to go to Australia and see this bike race. And 2 years later, we did it. And it was such an awesome experience. So giving yourself things to look forward to and knowing that you're going to have one step forward, two steps back sometimes, be patient, look at your progress over a longer time horizon. So when you have a bad day, a bad week, remember where you are relative to 3 months ago or 6 months ago when you're actually making progress. So those are some of the things I would advise.
Now, for the other side of this, and maybe I need to pull Julie in to ask, what, for those people who are loved ones of someone going through this kind of a diagnosis or something serious in their life, they're a coworker. They want to be supportive, but man, they really don't know how to do it and how to do it well. There's no playbook for this. What input or advice do you give to those people, the caretakers of the person who's going through a really difficult time?
They're the heroes, really. I mean, Julie had a way harder time of it than I did. I just had to sit in the bed and get waited on. She was the one holding up the world on her shoulders, juggling 5 kids and me and all the family and friends coming in to help and all that stuff. So one, know that you are special. If you're a caretaker, if you're a colleague, every patient in a situation like that is going to have different needs and different view on things. For me, it was really hard for me to know what I needed. And so just having people show up with their own ideas was useful. If somebody's asking me a bunch of questions, what do you need? What can I do? My head's too cloudy. I may not have good advice. If somebody just shows up and brings me something, even if it's not a food I like or whatever, that's meaningful. So just showing up, being around, reaching out to, let that person know that you're there to help out. That makes all the difference in the world.
All right, we're going to get out of here on this, but first I'm going to turn to the listener and just maybe capture a few, what I think were insights from today. Dan, you dropped it, and there's a lot of good stuff. One is we got competitive Dan here. You may not be competitive Dan, but it doesn't mean you can't participate and engage in sports. Part of being involved in sports is just having a healthy lifestyle, taking care of yourself mentally and physically. Dan talked about the ability to kind of see different mailboxes in different neighborhoods as he's on the bike. And that's helpful for all of us, right? For our physical mindset, for our mental mindset. One of the other things you talked about, or Dan talked about, was the coaching mindset, the ability to coach himself through difficult circumstances, building resilience and grit. There's a great book out there by Angela Duckworth called Grit. There's another book that Dan referenced called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. By now, I'm guessing most people who are listening have read the book, but if you haven't, definitely encourage you to go do that. The importance of setting goals for yourself so that you have something to look forward to. The most recent example was going down to Australia, just looking at something while I'm in the hospital and imagining one day I'm going to be there. Imagining one day I'm going to be at an auditorium talking to people about this really difficult circumstance that I overcame and giving people hope. The idea of envisioning success. All the world's best athletes do that. And then something that I got actually from a Nick Saban book, the former coach of the Alabama football team, expect things to go bad. Bad things happen to good people, bad people, bad things happen in life. And when you expect bad things to happen, it's not so difficult when it actually happens. You're probably going to get a flat tire at some point. You're probably going to hurt yourself at some point. It's just a part of life. And then if you're going through a difficult situation, just the idea of realizing that, give yourself some grace, be patient with yourself, and just know that your goals might need to be a little bit more short-term immediately, right? Get through just one thing and then envision the future. That's our post-game summary. So that's what I've got. Dan, any parting thoughts for you as we wrap up the podcast today?
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's all about the mindset. And today I think about how blessed I am to have made it through this, all the help I received with that. I have a checkup at Medical City in 2 weeks. I cheer everybody on when I'm in the waiting lobby of the oncology. I just completed a 500-mile solo bike race, and I went through what you're going through right now. And encouraging them that the biggest opportunities in life come out of the toughest challenges that we face. So the more you can look for those, seek them out, and realize that when you're in the middle of something tough, that's going to create an opportunity for you. And those lessons are going to apply in sports, in business, and your life in general. So thank you so much for having me.
Really happy to have you on. I didn't say this, but I got myself one of the greatest gifts I could give myself in 2023, a bike. Now, I'm not crazy like you on the road bike. I ain't doing that yet. But it is one of the most mentally freeing experiences that I have. Also, it's really good for the body, less, rigor on the knees. Yep. So if you haven't got a bike out there, I encourage you to go think about that. Dan, thanks so much for being on today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. If you got value from this podcast, don't keep it a secret. Subscribe, leave a rating or a review, and share it with someone you know. Until next time, remember, our world is starving for Bonafide leaders. Take your leadership to the next level by applying at least one thing you heard today.